Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's currently Monday and it's the most glorious day. Like the sun is so nice, like shining through the window, giving me all the good vibes. But I thought it's about time for another study session, especially because now my university has closed because of the virus. All of our lectures have moved online, and obviously, as I've said quite a few times on this channel, I have 3 deadlines coming up over the next 19-20 days, so it's a pretty intense time for me, and it means I can't use the campus libraries, I can't use the campus computers or like the software, which I kind of needed for my dissertation, so that's going to be interesting to overcome. And it also means I don't get any one-to-one support with my tutors or lecturers or dissertation supervisor. It's all going to have to be done on email, but obviously they're going to be inundated with emails because they have a lot of students. So it's a very interesting time right now, but we're doing a study with me, and because I know a lot of people are doing this as well, having to work from home, study from home, I thought I'd throw in some tips along my study with me with how to study from home and kind of my tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, because I have been studying from home like quite often throughout this year, especially since I moved further away from university. So I have got some good tips which I think will be useful to share with you, especially if you're used to working in a classroom setting. Like working from home is a lot different. But yeah, it was just a great excuse to do another study with me, especially since my deadlines are fast approaching. I literally have one on Friday, so four days to go, and we're not actually working on that essay today, so very interesting. But today it's going to be all about my dissertation because it's 10,000 words, it's due in 20 days, and I've probably done 3,000 words, and I've got a lot of data to analyse and kind of like the nitty gritty bits. So I thought we could do that together, because otherwise I think I might get very bored very quickly. But that does bring me on to my first tip. So I would always say when you're studying from home, have a plan of action, because it's not like you have a lecturer stood in front of you telling you what you're going to study or telling you what you're doing for that day or that hour, however long your lectures are. So I always like to write down either in paper or on my phone, usually on my phone just because then I always have it with me, a plan of action for the day. And when I say plan of action, I mean to the last detail. So let me grab my phone and I'll read what I wrote this morning. What? So I literally wrote this at 8:30 this morning, I think. Literally one of the first things I did when I woke up, and I just put it on my notes. You could also put it in your calendar if that's how you work, but I just like shoving everything in my notes. So my plan of action for today was workout, change, film intro for Week in My Life, check, breakfast, film 1K giveaway, check. It's live right now, the giveaway, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave it linked below. Film intro for tips for studying at home, check. Write dissertation / data breakdown, lunch / study break, write dissertation until 5 PM, edit video 1K giveaway. So as you can see, there's quite a lot there, but I've also got like change, have breakfast, take a break, and sometimes I do put time, so I'll put like workout 9 AM, change 9:45, film intro for Week of My Life 10:30 kind of thing. So it is like really minute details, but I think an easy way to kind of look at it, if you don't want to break down your whole day, is just break down your study session. So you don't necessarily have to include breaks in that breakdown. You could just say, I'm going to write 600 words, or I'm going to research 5 different journal articles, or I'm going to break down the data analysis for my dissertation. So just things like little bite-sized or like manageable pieces of research or studying to be done for that day. I've also set myself a cut-off point, which I will get to a bit later. But yeah, that would be my first tip, just so you know where you're starting, what you're kind of working towards for that day, and it's more manageable, like you have an end goal in sight, which helps you when actually working towards it and you're not like floundering about where to start. So that's my tip number 1. Tip number 2 is very simple and requires a very quick change of scene. Tip number 2 is set up your study space. So for my first bit of studying, I know I'm just going to be kind of writing down bits of information that I already have. It doesn't require a lot of thinking, it's just kind of organising all information. So I'm quite happy to do this from my lounge, sat on my sofa. I've got pretty much nothing around me, just my charger and my laptop, but I have got the TV on. Now I'll get into like the setup a bit later on when I switch my settings, but for this bit of work I know that is pretty chill, so I can have some background noise on, I can watch something that's quite light-hearted whilst I do it and it won't be too distracting, and I'm comfortable, I'm cozy, because I know this is going to take a couple of hours. So yeah, that's kind of how I set up my space. I really like this room. There's a lot of light coming in. It's very like good vibes, giving me all of the energy to tackle this data, but that would definitely be my second tip, is to choose somewhere where you feel comfortable. Maybe not necessarily your bed or anything, because that can be quite hard to work from, I find personally, but either dining room table, desk, sofa, wherever little nook and cranny you have, maybe have a like cute window seat or something, just depending on your kind of research. So when I have research that is a bit light-hearted and doesn't take too much brain power, I can work from the sofa quite happily with things on in the background. When it gets to the nitty-gritty and I have to write a lot of words very quickly to the highest of my ability, I tackle the kitchen table and I sit there for hours and hours and hours, and I do not move, and it is my workstation. But this is a different vibe we're going for right now. This is the setup of my space and just helps me get in my study zone. So it is now very nearly 12 o'clock. I shall show you so you believe me. I clicked the wrong button. Very nearly 12 o'clock. And I've just finished like inputting all my data into words that I can actually understand. So I'm going to reward myself with a cup of tea. I'm not going to have a break necessarily. I'm literally just going to go make a cup of tea and come straight back. But I do like to kind of reward myself at like these little milestones, or like checkpoints, I guess. This would be like if you're in a video game, this would be where you hit saves to save your progress and then continue. So to do that, my save button is going to be a cup of tea. I really like just breaking up the day with like a biscuit or an apple or a cup of tea or a shower or things like that. Just like little things that don't take very long but still like feel refreshing and just give you a bit of a change of scenery before you hop back in. I think that's really important to like break it down into more manageable size bite pieces, bite size, more manageable bite-sized pieces. Does that make sense? I don't really know. But that way I just find that the day goes a lot quicker because I am breaking it up and I'm not just sat there looking at a screen for 6 or so hours. So that would be my next tip. And it's just nice to like input those little bits of joy into your day, especially when you're working from home and things can get quite stale quite quickly if you don't input those little moments of joy into your life. So a cup of tea to me is super comforting and like a tradition or like a ritual that I really like doing. So that gives me a lot of joy and is something I like to do multiple times throughout the day. I'm sure you feel the same when you have a cup of coffee or an iced drink or anything like that. You just feel a bit more refreshed, a bit more settled in your mind and just happy vibes all around. So that's what I'm going to do now before I get stuck back in. So it is now 1:20 and I have written 666 words, which is quite a lot. I think like made some pretty good progress. It's a bit mind-numbingly boring. As I said, it's just like inputting information, so I'm writing like a lot of numbers and just the same thing over and over again, which needs to be done, so we're making progress. But yeah, but basically my mind is drifting, my brain is becoming a bit numb, so I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna have some lunch. I like to try and do something in my break so it's not just like me sat there, like, because then I feel a bit guilty, like, oh, I could be working. So I like to go for a walk, I like to get out of the house, or I like to have lunch or do like the washing or something, like do an errand within that time, just so I am still being kind of productive or like doing something and it's just not just like wasted time. So yeah, I think it's really important to have study breaks. It's a lot harder to have study breaks at home compared to when you're at uni, because obviously the uni lectures and stuff are timetabled, so you have set breaks and set lunches and set times when you know you'll be finishing, whereas working from home can get quite overwhelming if you're just sat in one place and don't take the time for yourself, because there's no one telling you to stop or breathe or anything, and quite often before you know it, like an hour and 20 minutes has passed. Like, when did that happen? Honestly. So I think it is really important to schedule in these breaks just for like your mental health, and also just for like your motivation and like, what's the word when you keep doing something? Perseverance, maybe, would be the right word, just because then you'll come back, you'll feel refreshed and can start anew with a new burst of energy, and you're not like running off empty. So let's get some lunch and watch One Tree Hill. So it's now 2 o'clock and I'm gonna get back to studying, but before I do that I just wanted to share another tip, which would be to, I think I mentioned it slightly earlier, but it is to set an end time for your studying. So kind of like you would at work, you know when you're gonna finish, you know you clock off at 6 or you leave uni at 2 or whatever. For your studying at home, it can be quite easy just to carry that through the evening, through the night, and go to bed at a ridiculous time. What I like to do is stop studying at 5 p.m. I just find like at that time my brain clocks off anyway, so the work I would be doing after that time would probably be quite half-hearted and not very good, in all honesty. So I like to clock off at 5, which means I know I have 3 hours left of studying to do. Which just again makes it more manageable, because you can know that there is an end in sight, and you know after 5 p.m. you get the whole evening to yourself. You can chill, you can watch movies, you can have a nice dinner with your boyfriend when he gets home from work. So yeah, that is another top tip that I would say for studying at home, and something that I do think is really important to try and manage your like work or uni life balance, college life balance, because it just means you can do fun things for yourself with your friends in the evening, but know that you've got your studying done throughout the day and that you've clocked off at like a reasonable hour. So yeah, that would be another top tip for you if you are starting to study from home now that your university's been closed and you have to do courses online and everything like that. Definitely try and finish at an hour that works out for you, gives you enough time to have some time for yourself and do some self-care, but obviously still so that you get a lot done. Let's get back to studying. Guys, my brain is mush. It is 20 to 4 and I've written way over 1,000 words, like 1,300 around there, and I think I'm done for today. I'm finishing an hour early, but honestly I'm exhausted. I've stared at so many numbers and graphs for so long. I don't think doing any more work today will be productive. So that's, I guess, another tip in itself, is just to like check in and know what your limits are. Like, I know any work I do from now is going to be half-hearted, like I'm not all in it. I don't feel motivated to carry on. I'm really proud of the progress that I've made. Like, that is a huge chunk of my dissertation done all in one day, which is fab, and I've done like a whole section of my dissertation, so I don't have to worry about that anymore, and writing the rest of it is going to be a breeze because I've got that done. But just checking in with myself, realistically, I'm kind of like self-aware that I hit like a maximum limit and I clock out, I'm done. So that's me done for today, I'm pretty sure. But there is one last tip that I wanted to give that I didn't, my voice just went really weird, that I didn't actually get to do today, and that is to change your setting. So if you find yourself halfway through getting unmotivated or just feeling like a bit stale or dull, whatever you're doing, switch up your workspace. So obviously for me, I've been working from the sofa all day, which has worked really well for me. But if you did need to switch up, I would personally go and work on my kitchen table, my dining room table, and kind of set up like a study space there. I just find like a change of space, a change of lighting, a change of like surroundings really switches up your mindset and gets you like boosted back into what you're doing. So that could be an office desk that you have, or like a desk that you have in your room. It could be a cute chair by a window, it could be an armchair rather than the sofa, it could be your bed if you're one of those people that can work from their bed. Again, it could be your dining room table or like a kitchen counter, anything like that, just something to switch up a bit. And if it's nice weather, it could even be in your garden, which also is lovely, or actually in like a cafe or a park bench or something like that, with like minimal distractions, I would say, because usually if I'm writing something super in depth, I need zero distractions. Like I can't really even have music on. I would recommend listening to like lo-fi, I think the playlist I listen to is like lo-fi cafe beats or something, because there's no speaking. Because when there's speaking, I listen to it and then I end up writing the words to the song or to the radio than what I'm actually supposed to be writing. So if I have background music with no noise, it kind of sounds like you're in a waiting room or in a lift. That works pretty well for me. But yeah, usually I would switch up my seating or space, but because the work I was doing wasn't too word intensive, I could watch TV, I could be on the sofa and be quite chill with it, which is quite nice, kind of ease myself into this very busy week of essay writing that I've got ahead of me. But yeah, that is all of my tips. I hope they've helped, and if you are working or studying from home for the first time because of the virus and because things have been closed down, I hope that is going well for you. I hope you take some of my tips on board, and just remember we are all in the same boat, so reach out to your friends and family or like other peers on your course who are going through the same thing, because I'm sure they'd still be willing to help, and reach out and chat to people. It makes it a bit more fun and interesting. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for studying with me. I always find it so much more motivating when I'm like documenting it and chatting about it, because I like actually have to get it done for someone other than myself, which is quite nice. But yeah, thanks very much for tagging along. You are a real one if you have stuck around, and I'm currently posting 3 videos a week, so if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button down below, because there is a lot of content coming your way. And don't forget to take part in the subscriber giveaway if you haven't already, because it's still live. It goes on until Sunday, so I will see you then.